Here they come. This is the sixth caravan coming out of southern Mexico in the past few months. And it's clear that Mexico's new president, Claudia Sheinbaum, is doing little to stop them. Take a look here. You can see it is 1,500 strong and growing. The caravan's leader, Luis Villagran, told me yesterday he's encouraging these migrants to march on despite the incoming Trump administration's threat to deport them. And the migrants seem unafraid.
We start with a battle at the border. President-elect Trump's incoming administration is facing its first policy clash over a controversial plan to curb illegal immigration through mass deportations. Leaders of sanctuary cities and blue states are gearing up to fight.
Let me be clear. There is going to be a mass deportation. We're not waiting till January. We're already talking. We're already planning. We're going to put a plan in place and secure this nation at the highest level it's ever seen. It is a felony to knowingly harbor and conceal an illegal alien from immigration authorities. Don't test us.
The war inside of our country has already begun. And as expected, the left is doing its best to keep illegal immigrants in their cities. Blue states who believe that there's nothing wrong with illegally entering the United States are now making their voices heard. And this is despite knowing that the Biden-Harris administration has let in millions of illegal aliens inside of our country. Retired Border Patrol agent J.J. Carell recently testified in front of House Committee on Homeland Security. He argued that things have become so much worse under this administration and that things have to change.
My last year in the Border Patrol was Joe Biden's first year in office. On his first day in office, I watched in disbelief as 94 executive orders cascaded down from Washington, D.C., obliterating every immigration policy that had been provided the most secure border in America's history. Border Patrol agents were forced to carry out unconstitutional orders that violated every law in the Immigration Nationality Act. President Biden, through Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, created policy out of thin air, ignored federal immigration law, and facilitated the largest mass invasion into America that the world has ever seen.
Now, I want to say again that this guy is a former Border Patrol agent. He's been in the thick of it and he knows what's going on here, which brings me to something that we've talked about before. This administration talks about protecting these illegal immigrants.
Let's now bring in Ron Vitello, retired director of Immigration and Customs Enforcement and a former U.S. Border Patrol chief. Ron, welcome back to the show. As Xavier was just laying out, Democratic leaders said they have spent months preparing for another Trump administration. Several of them are just saying, thanks but no thanks to mass deportations. How's that going to go for them, Ron?
I hope it doesn't go well for them. I hope that the Justice Department engages with cities like Los Angeles, the mayor of Denver, which I think was in the first segment, about sanctuary cities. What are they doing? Who are they protecting? Who are these mayors and governors of these blue states? Who are they protecting? They're protecting people who chose to come to the country illegally for whatever reason.
They talk about human rights and that we should allow persecuted individuals to enter our country. The problem is that they've lost a lot of these people. And to make the situation worse, they've lost hundreds of thousands of children.
A year later, in August of 2024, the Inspector General with oversight over DHS issued a report stating the number lost UACs was not 85,000, it was over 320,000. My business partner, Ryan Matt, and I spent 6 months traveling across America, filming a documentary titled, What is Treason Trafficked? The evil of child sex trafficking is difficult to digest and understand. However, after conducting numerous interviews with officers, agents, and whistleblowers from every alphabet agency and department, it was made clear to us that the federal government knowingly and actively facilitated these criminal acts. After several exhaustive months of filming, interviewing, and then editing this documentary, I state without reservation that the United States federal government is the world's largest child sex trafficking organization in modern history.
Now, as you guys may be familiar with documentaries, they're not made with assumptions. Carell had to get information from different people and agencies to confirm these numbers. Now, what's surprising is that these government officials are focused on spinning Carell's character. It's kind of like they don't care about the facts that he's presenting to this committee. Look at how he's demonized here by Democratic Representative Delia Ramirez, saying that he has no credibility when it comes to illegal immigration, even though the guy is literally a former Border Patrol agent.
My Republican colleagues here, including one who has so candidly and callously posted racist tweets about Haitian immigrants, are calling up yet another witness with no credibility on the hearing topic, who believe in conspiracy theories, write about it, and promote lies, alt-right extremist ideologies, to be here. On your X account, Mr. Carell, formerly Twitter, you ask, what is treason? Well, let me answer for you. This right here, this is treason. In one of your tweets, you claim violent January 6 rioters who destroyed public property and attempted to stop a democratic transition of power as political prisoners. I find it to be shameful that a former law enforcement agent would defend a mob who beat law enforcement officers protecting this very building. In another post, you write, mass deportations will be swift, but they will be deadly. Actually, I agree with you on that. They will be deadly. So I find it unforgivable that you, Trump, and Republican members of this committee would even advocate for it. In another post, you say we should destroy the federal government and that the federal government is the enemy. I find that odd considering you were once a federal employee and you've been begging to come back into the incoming Trump administration for a new job.
For the record here, Ramirez didn't allow Carell to respond to everything that she said. So we don't really know which is true and which is made up, because Carell said himself that the photo that they put up here, it wasn't ever posted on his X account. It's also a classic defense mechanism for these individuals in power to resort to calling out racism. Remember that these immigrants are illegally entering the country and that the current administration is allowing it. This is why instead of focusing on the message, they try and destroy the messenger. So it's typical for these officials to deny us the truth. Instead, they're going to come out with all sorts of smear campaigns to destroy the credibility of anybody who stands in their way. It's like they want to stop the very people who are actually trying to protect the country. Meanwhile, they're more than willing to keep our borders open up until President-elect Trump is sworn back into the office. These same officials also speak out against anybody who wants to help the president and his new border czar, Tom Homan.
Governor Cox said local law enforcement will work to identify, incarcerate, and deport undocumented immigrants who have committed crimes and pose a threat to public safety. I'm Maya Constantino in Salt Lake City. State Democratic leaders spoke against Cox's announcement, and members of the community are worried what will happen next. Angela Romero, leader of the House Democrats, said she worries about Governor Cox's approach.
Do I want to make sure people are committing serious crimes and hurting people, that they're held accountable? Yes, I'm not debating that. But my concern is the rhetoric and the political rhetoric going around about people who are aspiring to be citizens or people who are undocumented or people who are asylees.
In a statement, Governor Cox says that he'll continue to welcome refugees and immigrants who enter the country lawfully.
How do you guys feel about this? Because on the one hand, they agree that illegal aliens with criminal backgrounds should be deported. But on the other hand, they're fighting to keep these people on American soil.
One New York state senator is even floating the idea of having New York withhold federal taxes and then the Empire State seceding to join Canada. Senior correspondent Eric Shawn is live with more. There's about as much chance of that as a pink unicorn leading the Thanksgiving Day parade tomorrow.
Hey, hello, John. Good morning. Well, it's a defiant plan against President-elect Trump's mass deportation plan. Succeed and join our neighbor to the north. That is exactly what Manhattan liberal Democrat State Senator Liz Krueger is proposing, that the Empire State and fellow blue northeastern states leave the U.S. and join Canada to protest Trump's plan. She said this back in September before the election, quote, "Instead of us all trying to illegally cross the border at night without them noticing, which is pretty hard because there's lots of us, that they should instead agree to let us be the Southeast province, a new province of Canada. New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Vermont would combine and be a great new province as the Southeast province of Canada. Basically, everybody in these states are progressive Democrats who would fit in pretty well with the political philosophy of at least most of the Canadian elected officials." Well, in a new interview with Politico, State Senator Krueger, who chairs the powerful State Senate Finance Committee, also says that her state and the others should stop sending tax money to the federal government as part of their protest. New York State's controller says that the Empire State sends more than $361 billion a year, or provides 6.5% of the whole federal budget. But incoming Trump border czar Tom Homan says nothing will stop them.
So those people who say they're going to stop us from what they're doing, they will not. I'm going to do this job. Men and women of ICE are going to do this job. You're not going to stop us. But let me give you a word of advice. If you impede us, there's going to be consequences. You cannot help us.
Ah, yes. So is this what they call the tolerant left? Remind me, guys, who are they calling a cult again? But they should know who they're messing with. I think you guys would agree with me. Violence and intimidation, they're not going to work with this administration, right, guys? And the same with Trump's incoming border czar, Tom Homan. He's also one of the soon-to-be officials that are being targeted by these death threats. But the man says he's not going to be intimidated. Check this out.
I'm so sorry to hear that you and your family are going through this. What's your preliminary response to hearing that it's not unique to you? Other senior incoming officials are also facing threats today.
Well, first of all, I appreciate what Nicole just said, but I'll be honest with you, I have not taken it serious up to this point. Now that I know what's happening in the last 24 hours, I will take it a little more serious. But look, I've been dealing with this when I was the ICE director in the first administration. I had numerous death threats. I had a security detail with me all the time. Even after I retired, the death threats continued. And even after I retired as the ICE director, I had U.S. Marshals protection for a long time to protect me and my family. And what doesn't help is all the negative press around the president and people he's putting in his cabinet. Me, I'm not in the cabinet, but, I've read numerous hit pieces on me. I'm a racist and, I'm the father of family separation, all this other stuff. So the hate media doesn't help at all because there are some nuts out there that will take advantage. So that doesn't help. And I thought we're beyond that after the election's over, that we're going to get beyond that. But, I will now start taking a little more serious after I just heard what's happened the last 24 hours. Up to that point, I was the attitude that if I'm not home, my family's not home. And they're not home right now, but when I return home, I'm going to bring them home. But I was of the attitude lately that if you want some, come get some. Because, I've been through this many, many times. And but again, what I've learned today, I'll start taking a little more serious.
So here we are, guys. Trump's officials are facing death threats and their families are having to take these threats more seriously. Meanwhile, Biden and his family are safe and sound spending Thanksgiving in Nantucket. But you know what else is happening in Nantucket? A vicious wave of migrant crime that's affecting the local residents, Americans who actually live there. Just hear it from this one father.
I actually live on Nantucket and I work here. I have my mortgage through the local bank here, my insurance through the local insurance company here. I know a lot of things go back to COVID, but when COVID hit, Nantucket became a place that people found as a sanctuary and came here because it was small. We were all close as a community and we did feel safe, but not anymore. As far as the recent ICE arrests are concerned, I'm very happy that ICE was here and was able to do their job and get rid of at least some of the bad people that are on the island. There's obviously many, many more. And as a community, it scares me. As a father, it truly scares me. And I would like to see more being done. My daughter goes to school, and after school, she goes over to the Boys and Girls Club. But, they walk there. It's not like they go right out of school and get on a bus and then are transported there. And the amount of kids, there's never enough chaperones or people that can really keep an eye on all of these kids. The schools are mostly Latino and other types of nationalities. Just a white person is a minority now in the school system. Well, our local paper comes out every Thursday, and the crime report or court report, whatever you would like to call it, is dramatically much larger in the past few years than what it used to be. There's always at least 15 to 20 different people that are in the court report. And those episodes stem anywhere from a lot of drunk driving, OUI arrests, but many home invasions, domestic abuse, drugs, obviously. We're not really sure where there is a safe place anymore.
So that man was Eric Evans, who has lived in Nantucket for 31 years and has an 8-year-old daughter in public schools. Now, like he said, you're not sure these days where there is a safe place anymore. I guess we can thank the Democrats and liberal mainstream media for this, huh? I mean, even President-elect Donald Trump's cabinet nominees and other appointees are under siege. According to Trump-Vance transition spokeswoman and incoming White House press secretary Carolyn Leavitt, the attacks range from bomb threats to swatting, which is when domestic terrorists make prank phone calls so that police would send over a lot of officers to somebody's house. Yeah, apparently that's a thing now with these people. One of the officials used a statement describing this incident as having involved a pipe bomb threat with a pro-Palestinian themed message. The list of endangered officials just keeps getting longer too. Sources say that John Ratcliffe, the nominee to be CIA director, Pete Hegseth, the nominee for Secretary of Defense, and Representative Elise Stefanik, the nominee for UN ambassador, were among those targeted. Brooke Rollins, who Trump has tapped to be Secretary of Agriculture, and Lee Zeldin, Trump's nominee to be EPA administrator, separately revealed they were also targeted. Leavitt confirmed in a press release that several of President Trump's cabinet nominees and administration appointees were targeted in violent, un-American threats to their lives and those who live with them. New York State Police said in a statement that they had to send members and canine units trained in explosive detection to sweep Stefanik's home in Saratoga, but did not locate any explosive devices. Now, this is no joke, guys. This was a serious deployment of police resources. Now, think about this for a second. It's no small task to bring in bomb-sniffing dogs for a high-stakes sweep. It shows the level of threat that these public figures are dealing with right now, and it's a part of a bigger story of a growing security threat and worries for Trump officials. This kind of intense scrutiny doesn't just stretch our resources, but it also creates this wave of fear and terror throughout the community, not to mention the risks in the political world that are just escalating with these kinds of threats. Leavitt said Trump and the transition team are focused on doing the work of uniting our nation by ensuring a safe and prosperous future. So we need to take care of them because, like Trump, dangerous acts of intimidation and violence will not deter us. A White House spokesperson said in a statement that President Joe Biden has been briefed on the situation. They said that they're in touch with federal law enforcement and the president-elect's team. They also said that the president and the administration unequivocally condemn threats of political violence. So why do they keep calling Trump and his supporters things like threats to democracy, Nazis, and garbage? It really puts into perspective where they stand on these threats to President-elect Trump and his officials, right? I mean, just think about it, guys. These threats come mere months after Trump survived 2 assassination attempts. Just days before Trump accepting the Republican nomination, Trump was shot at a rally on July 13th in Butler, Pennsylvania. Just weeks later in September, another would-be assassin hid in the bushes at Trump's international golf course in West Palm Beach, Florida. The gunman had an AK-47 style rifle pointing through the fence toward Trump as the GOP nominee was golfing. But still, they refused to stop calling the president-elect a threat to democracy. Just drop a quick yes in the comments down below. Hit the like button if you guys agree with what we're saying here, guys. Also, do not forget to subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications so that you don't miss out on our future updates. In spite of all of these threats to our national security, President Joe Biden remains aloof and tone deaf as he spent Thanksgiving with his family all safe and sound on Nantucket Island. For the past 3 years, the Bidens have stayed at a property owned by a private equity billionaire by the name of David Rubenstein that overlooks Nantucket Harbor. And their visits this year continue their 40-year tradition of spending the holiday on this Nantucket Island. You know what else Nantucket has been seeing these past few years? A whole lot of migrant crimes. You see, while Biden was off enjoying his Air Force One jet and his presidential motorcade, Nantucket residents have been hearing about illegal immigrants getting picked up by ICE officials. 5 migrants from Guatemala and El Salvador were picked up by ICE's enforcement and removal operations of Boston over a 48 period in September. And since August, the agency has arrested at least 8 illegal immigrants accused of various criminal charges on Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard. On September 10th, 28-year-old Salvadorian migrant Brian Daniel Aldana Arevalo was charged with 1 count of child blank with a 10-year age difference and 2 counts of indecent assault and battery on a child under the age of blank. Now that day, Aldana Arevalo was quietly taken into the mainlands in handcuffs via ferry. Together with him was Elmer Sola, another Salvadorian migrant charged with 11 counts of crimes against children, which officials have confirmed took place on Nantucket. Nantucket. Shortly after that, on September 11th, agents returned to Nantucket to arrest illegal Brazilian migrant Gian Amaral Belafonte and Guatemalan illegal immigrant Felix Alberto Perez Gomez. Both had committed crimes against Nantucket residents. And get this, guys, Belafonte left after the alleged assault took place in 2021, but he re-entered the country illegally and was picked up on an arrest warrant in March. Another one was taken into custody on the island was reputed MS-13 gang member Angel Gabriel Derez Mija of El Salvador on September 12th. Derez Mija was arrested at the Discovery Playground on Old South Road in July. Nantucket police wrote that he was drunk and cursing, flaring his arms, yelling loudly and distracting all civilians who were at the scene and left their children at the crime scene. All of this recent news Biden seemingly ignored as he spent his vacation on the same island. Yeah, I definitely cannot wait until the adults are back in charge. I mean, just look at what some Democrats are planning in New York. So New York state legislators have hinted at using unusual tactics to combat the incoming Trump administration, including holding back federal taxes and leaving the United States to join Canada. Yeah, I really wish I was kidding you guys, but these are true facts. Democratic State Senator Liz Krueger, she proposed the ideas as state Democrats only have weeks to counter President-elect Donald Trump before he takes office. She called the ideas thinking outside the box. The blocking of federal income tax comes after Trump's border czar Tom Homan said that he will block federal funding for states that don't cooperate. And it looks like Krueger is planning to not cooperate as she talked about the possible $85 billion hole that this could bring to the Empire State. She said that they're talking money that they couldn't possibly replace unless they started sending the feds a lot less money. Now, apart from that, Krueger has proposed that New York should join Canada back in September before Trump claimed his landslide win with the White House. More specifically, she proposed leaving with Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Vermont. She said instead of us all trying to illegally cross the border at night without them noticing, that they should instead agree to let us be the Southeast province, a new province of Canada. She justified the idea by basically saying everyone in these states are progressive Democrats and that they would all fit in pretty well with the political philosophy of at least most of the Canadian elected officials. But that's where she's wrong, guys. A whopping 43% of voters in New York voted for Trump in the 2024 election. Meanwhile, the other 3 states all garnered at least 30% of the vote for the president-elect. Now, speaking of fighting, Vice President Kamala Harris is thinking about running for president by 2028. Although her latest public appearance seems to show her in a very drunken state. Now, I covered this in a previous video, guys, that I urge you to check out after this one. As always, thanks so much for hitting the like button and subscribing. Check out this video here coming up or our playlist section down below, and we'll see you guys on the next one.